Hello, this is your Health Enhancement Show. I'm Hilda Tatom, and my guest this evening is the Reverend Dr. Hall. Dr. Hall and I will be discussing with you all vegetarianism. So, if you're interested in becoming a vegetarian, or if you're not interested in becoming a vegetarian, there are lots and lots of principles about vegetarianism and lots of information that can help anyone enhance their diet. So, stay tuned. We got lots of stuff that we'd love to share with you. So, I welcome you.
Hello.
So, why would a person be the least bit interested in becoming a vegetarian? To start off with a very hostile question to begin with.
To stay healthy.
Why? So you feel that a vegetarian diet is healthier than the standard American diet?
Much so. The things that are happening, the pollution that the country and the world are going through right now, concentrate in animals, and if you eat animals, you concentrate them even further. You are what you eat.
So you're saying what sort of things are concentrated in meat? I mean, our grandparents had their pork chops and their sausages and their hamburgers and their country fried steak. So
I grew up on a farm. Those are fond memories, I'll tell you.
Yeah. So now why aren't you eating that way now?
My father had a chicken farm, and I left home in 1950 after graduating from college, and never went back to it very much. We had a cow, and we had goats, we had our own pigs, we had our own chickens, and my father was one of the first people to rear chickens up on wire. Now, I have a little story I'd like to tell you about why.
Okay.
And this one is...
I'm feeling sorry for the chickens already, but anyway.
Oh, really? I did too. I felt sorry for them in those days when I found out what was happening. But there are 20 years and 20 generations of chickens which have not put foot on grass.
Or been out in the sunshine.
Or been out in the sunshine. So, one student of mine has a healing place in North Carolina now. And he was driving down the road, and there was a chicken on the side of the road that had apparently fallen out of a truck, one of these chicken farm trucks where they grow chickens by thousands and thousands. And it was hobbling around on the side of the road. So they stopped and they picked it up and took it home. And it had huge bunions on its feet, because that's what chickens are. Chickens are now used to walking around on wire for a billion years. They've been walking around on dirt. And they grow huge, awful sores on their feet. They also grow awful sores on their breastbone from sitting down on the wire. They're not used to sitting down on wire.
Well, it's miserably
even after
uncomfortable.
20 generations.
Yeah.
So these things all disappear when you see them in the market. Well, anyway, my father, when he started growing chickens, could grow a chicken to 2 pounds or a little over in 12 weeks, and this was normal. And then they started coming out with fancy foods and how to make them get bigger, because Kentucky Fried Chicken was just beginning to be happening then, and all the other kinds of fried chicken.
So really, they were pumping out all these chickens.
They were just getting started, and now they're feeding them chemicals. You would not believe how many chemicals.
Put a little shot of arsenic in their food to kind of speed up their growth.
Yeah, and they raise the same chicken to the same weight in 6 weeks now. I had a pet hen who laid eggs, and if I had trap nested her in those days when I was a kid, and I didn't know how to do this until later, she laid 200 eggs a year. Now they feed hens chemicals to make them lay 3 eggs a day. This is if your wife took chemicals, or you took chemicals, to make you menstruate once a week. So it's the same awesome problem. So all of this chemistry has happened to chickens. And this chicken that my friend picked up on the side of the road had been eating those chemicals all of its life, very short life. And he took it home and kept it because they got a little farm-like place there. And pretty soon, it grew a big, sore, ulcer, tumor thingy under its chin. And my friend gave it some weird medicine. I won't tell you what he did with it. It was very old-timey medicine, ancient medicine. And the chicken healed and got over having this lump.
The lump was probably just where all the chemicals were collecting.
Yeah, that's what happened. They were coming out of him. And so they kept the chicken around, and it grew, and it got pretty good size, but its comb didn't grow, so they decided it was a hen, and they named it Mary. And
Mary was just a very lucky chicken.
She really was. She had a karma. I don't know what she did in her previous lifetime, but Mary grew, and she got rather large. And all of a sudden, one day, her comb started growing. Mary must be a rooster. So I was up there Memorial Day, and Mary crowed. But the lesson is that Mary had his gonads, his sex apparatus, bombarded with all this chemistry, and he was very abnormal, and he couldn't grow upright until he got rid of the chemistry. And then he turned into a regular boy chicken and into a rooster.
They probably fed him all sorts of crazy things, like just dried corn.
Yeah.
And just just whole, natural, fresh chicken food.
Natural, fresh ticks, bugs, grasshoppers, grass seed, whatever have you.
Well, I was
he was
reading
a real chicken after he escaped.
I was reading something recently that was talking about the fact that so many of the eggs are having atypical cells now, and I guess that may be why. It's because the chickens are having such strange foods.
Oh, they don't. The modern agribusiness does not do this just to chickens. They do it to pigs and cows and lambs and anything else that you find as a common meat. And this is the reason you shouldn't eat them, because they are fed all of this strange stuff to make them grow big and fat in a rapid hurry. I have eaten beef in the last 12 years only once, when I had a chance to eat some organic beef. Morality is not part of my problem. I could eat meat as well as anybody else. I understand it really isn't good for you. A lot of people don't like it, but for health reasons. But at least the way it is now, the hamburgers that I had were absolutely delicious. They reminded me of my childhood. And I ate 3 of them.
So it's a really very different quality of food than your grandfather ate.
What's available now is very different than what people ate 50 years ago or 100 years ago. And the reason for being vegetarian is to avoid all this chemistry. I was a mathematical statistician for 25 years, and I'd read a lot of the research that was done because the statistical methodology was interesting to me. And I read it to find out what the statistics were. They were nice and sophisticated and fancy, but what they were doing with it was, I'm afraid, not very good. So they were making things grow way too fast and abnormal.
What's wrong with things growing too fast? It was just because it's some peculiar structural and glandular changes occur, and the animals become very unhealthy.
They're basically unhealthy.
It's just not healthy to grow that fast then.
Biochemistry knows how to make things do strange, wonderful things. Maybe not so wonderful, but at least strange. And I insist that the biochemists are just beginning to scratch the surface. They have not yet learned how to pour all these chemicals into a test tube and come out with a baby alligator. And when they do, then I'll start believing and going back to eating all the stuff that the biochemists are pouring into the food system now.
So you're saying they really can create everything except life?
They don't know how to do that yet. They're missing a few ingredients, maybe 25,000 or so.
Or maybe all of the ones that have life.
Another reason for being vegetarian and eating out of what are currently called health food stores is the ingredients, and these are becoming very popular, well known now. All the preservatives, flavor enhancers, artificial flavors, artificial colors.
How about artificial sweeteners?
And artificial sweeteners are the worst. Sugar is very toxic stuff. and you have to have gone off sugar for 3 months and try to eat it again before you realize how very poisonous it is.
You say, would NutraSweet or saccharin be better then if you're not going to have sugar?
No. This is not a natural sugar. Natural sugar occurs in fruits, berries, grapes, what have you.
You could have a little honey or maple syrup occasionally then.
Yeah.
If it's good quality.
Good maple syrup and, well, even bad maple syrup, grade C, that isn't bad. I think it's a good tonic in the winter. I think it's got a lot of salt in it.
Well, most
a
people,
lot of minerals.
You know, don't you think that most people in this country have eaten enough sweets to kill a horse anyway? So it might be well for them. Yeah. So they might.
White sugar.
So they might be. It might be appropriate to not. You don't have to have something sweet with every meal every day.
No. Well, if you eat something sweet, I eat something sweet with every meal. For supper, I don't eat very much, but I use mine in honey. Now, there are even people who say you shouldn't eat honey, but honey's got a lot of good things in it in very small quantities.
But
and
you're not
white sugar. White sugar and honey are very different substances.
Now, there are lots of things that you'll read that'll say sugar is sugar, whether it's honey or sugar. So you're saying that that really is not correct.
No. White sugar is a 12-carbon sugar and difficult to digest. Honey and fruit sugars are 6-carbon sugars and are a whole different ballpark.
One of them is much more natural, and I think the sugar has been so processed. I believe it was Dick Gregory who said if it were outlawed, that people would kill to get it because it's really more like a drug.
Yeah, it really is. People have the natural sweet urge, and there is a natural sweet urge, and people who are very heavy with, whose belly button has disappeared, are heavy with water, and they get the sweet urge, and they rush out and they eat sugar. They should really go rush out and eat dates. Dates are much more natural sugar. It's one of the 6 carbons. I couldn't tell you which one.
Most of us don't care when we're munching on our dates anyway.
Yeah, I love dates.
This time of year, I mean, they're just such wonderful things too, like peaches and watermelons and cherries. And yesterday, well, I told you about my walk in North Georgia where I found the wild blueberries, which were tart, but they still had a lovely sweetness to them.
Lovely. I could eat blackberries and have until they come out my ears.
I think I ate so many blackberries that I wandered into some poison ivy. I would have wandered anywhere for those blackberries. They were just so good.
Yeah.
So I think that the point we're making, though, is that the vegetarian foods are cleaner. And if you don't have as many pesticides and chemicals in your diet, you're going to have more energy because it's just like putting some sort of contaminant in the gas tank of your car.
Yeah, if you put water in the tank of your car, it's pollution. And the car won't run as well. You put some of these long, complicated chemicals that have no natural analog, but they put them in food. If you read the list of ingredients on the box, and the government requires that this be put in it, and you can't pronounce it, it's because it isn't food.
The thing I love too, that there was a man that I knew a long time ago, Mr. Stackhouse. And Mr. Stackhouse told me if it don't rot, don't eat it, but eat it before it does.
A very good thing. I was walking through my favorite food store, and they had the lumpy, wormy apples, the kind you pick up under your own tree, but you'd never expect to see it in the grocery store. And I was so impressed with having this little lumpy apple. It wasn't too bad. And I was taking it home, and I just, on impulse, I held it up to the line of people waiting and said, "Isn't this a beautiful apple? It's full of worms. And you can eat it."
Yeah.
Because the worms can eat it and they won't die. If the worms eat it and die, you're going to eat it and die.
Yeah. Or if the bugs won't touch it, you got problems.
One of the most prominent lessons was 30, 40 years ago when Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs came through. The wicked stepmother of Snow White made a poisoned apple, and she poisoned half of the apple and not the other half. The beautiful half was poisoned. The not so beautiful half was safe. So what did Snow White do? She ate the beautiful half. And you know what happened to Snow White.
We don't want to be like Snow White. So now, when we come back, we're going to have to take a break right now. And Crazy Al, who is just, I think, my favorite guest in the whole world, and I are going to be telling you, you may think, well, this is all well and good, and they've told us all this scary stuff. but we'll tell you how to be a vegetarian and just some things that you might consider eating that are wonderful, real good foods. So stay with us.
We probably ought to do at least 2 or 3 shows on this subject alone.
Yes.
Some fantastic munchies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what.
Is there a little red button somewhere?
I don't know.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, you're on.
Welcome back. We're going to be giving you some really specific examples now on how to switch from eating your meat and become a vegetarian if you'd like to, and if you just want to do it part-time, that's fine, but it's something that you should know about. So if somebody is really having bacon and eggs for breakfast, which most of them really aren't doing, most of them are skipping their breakfast and having coffee and a donut, but let's say they're having hamburgers and hot dogs for lunch and maybe fried chicken and green beans and a salad for supper, which I'm not sure, some of them are doing pizzas or TV dinners would be more like it. Maybe not. I hope you're eating much better than that, because y'all have hopefully been watching the show for a while, and maybe you're eating some good things. So I don't mean to be too condescending, but I do see lots of people who are eating food that is not appropriate for them, and it's making them sick, and it makes me feel really sad to see it happen. So what would a person do that's really not just eating meat, but eating a junk food kind of diet too? What do they do?
Well, the first 2, my suggestion is, and I've done this with a lot of people, is for the first 2 weeks, you cut your meat eating in half. And at the same time you stop eating meat, you stop eating white sugar, which is why the wrap on sugar in 15 minutes ago. The meat is extremely yang, and the sugar is extremely yin. Now, this in Chinese medicine may not mean anything to you, but they are extremes of the diet. So that when you stop one extreme, your diet will be lopsided unless you stop the other.
And what you're wanting to do is help people achieve some sort of balance, which is where health is.
And come to the center of things. So cut your meat and sugar intake in half for the first 2 weeks. Start replacing your sugar with honey. If you like a lot of intense sweet, if you really like intense sweet, use date sugar, but it's very expensive. Date syrup is delicious, but it's very expensive. Maple syrup will do. And get yourself a steamer. You can either go the wok and bamboo steamer route, or you get one of these little steamers that fits in a pot.
Well, it looks like a flower pebble, sort of.
And start steaming your vegetables and get used to the state of steaming.
With those, I have an ice pick, and you just kind of stab it with an ice pick, and when it's the prettiest color and just barely tender, then you chew it up.
Yeah, don't over steam things. A little rawness and crispiness is good. And you go along and you start learning how to make little sauces and how to use herbs like parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme, and all of those things. And sprinkle this on your food. Use a little oil or a little butter, or some people go to soy margarine. I use just a good grade sesame oil. It's a real good oil.
Olive oil is nice.
Yeah, lots of these health food oils. And learn to put herbs and garlic and onions and peppers and things, and heat them a little in the oil and pour them out. Or white sauces.
Kind of a beige sauce, actually.
Yeah. And for the first 2 weeks, you cut things in half and introduce yourself to start learning how to cook in a different way. Then the second 2 weeks, you cut it in half again. This means that you'll be eating about 1/4 as much meat or sugar as you had been. And this gets the body used to not having meat and sugar and eating more vegetables.
Now, what happened if you just really went cold turkey on it?
You probably get very sick.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of what I always do, is go cold turkey and get sick. So it really works out. You get there about as fast and a great deal more comfortable if you use some sort of moderate path like Dr. Hall is proposing.
Yeah, and you just learn how to use a little miso here and there. We talked about miso
Mhm.
before. Um,
Miso is a soy paste, in case you didn't watch the other show. It's MISO, then it makes a very nice little sauce.
and a little tamari or soy sauce,
Mhm.
classy soy sauce. And then for this next time, after 2 weeks of 1/4 as much meat, you cut it in half again. Now this time, for the next 2 weeks, you'll be eating 1/8 of your usual meat and sugar thing. And your body is now down to getting used to digesting its protein out of grain. In this diet and in this way of changing, you should learn how to start using other things than wheat. 98% of American diet is wheat.
Why shouldn't you just eat less wheat? Wheat's a good food.
Wheat is good, but it's only one,
Mhm.
and it's like not having enough variety.
And it also throws you a bit out of balance.
Yeah, it's very heavy on the liver. So you cut back on your wheat, and you add in usually short grain brown rice. Although other rices are available, short grain brown is the best. You can do anything with short grain rice flour that you can do with wheat flour, including making very fancy cakes. Now, I don't know whether it will make an angel food or not, but it will make any other cake. And you use rye flour and corn flour. Everyone knows what cornbread is, I think.
I hope so. Blue cornmeal is just fantastic too.
Yeah. And millet. Did I mention millet? And barley.
Millet is really, I think, something that I love for people to get started on. It's very tasty. It tastes like corn. It's high in B vitamins, lots of protein, and it's supposed to be very healing to your pancreas, which is very good for
yes.
diabetics and hyperglycemics.
Yeah, a lot of people have these kinds of problems now, and millet and barley are two of the grains to eat to sort of even this thing out.
Buckwheat, something else that's very convenient and got lots of value.
Buckwheat is very nice in the winter. You can mix. When I do a health food class live and have an oven, I usually bake a cake out of fresh ground. I grind all of my flour within 5 minutes before I put it in the oven.
Because you want it fresh.
Because I like it fresh. This is going a little too far for most people, but Seventh-day Adventists do this a lot. And a flour mill costs you about $200, $300, $400, somewhere in that range. But you will save it by the difference in price, and to say nothing of the health and the lack of doctor bills.
The good quality food you get.
Yeah. I make when I have this class, I make a cake of oat flour and oat and barley flour, about half and half, and I put in a little bit of fresh ground rye and a little bit of honey, and then of course whatever I use for baking powder, and I usually use arrowroot or some other cornstarch, although cornstarch is not the very best of stuff, for thickener instead of an egg as a binder. And I bake this up and I feed it to them, and I don't tell them what's in it until it's all through. And most people think it's a spice cake because it's really very tasty and has no grain and no spices in it at all.
So, well, could you recommend some cookbooks for somebody who would be interested in becoming a vegetarian?
Well, for those who want to go to the extreme, macrobiotic cookbooks are good. But in any health food store now, there are at least 15 good vegetarian cookbooks. Laurel's Kitchen used to be a very good one. Back to Eden has a lot of good vegetarian recipes. There are delicious vegetarian foods that once you get used to tastes of good food, you'll wonder how you ever ate some of the other stuff.
Yeah.
Are we already over this?
We've got about 2 minutes left.
We should do 4 more shows just like it.
Yes, I think so. I think
Recipes.
So. Yes. So, well, I really appreciate your being here.
It's really a pleasure to be here. I hope some of you people will investigate going to vegetarianism because it will mean a lot to your health. A lot of people I know who have had cancer have simply shifted to vegetarian and health food store and got over it.
You can do some amazing things just by increasing your vegetables. and your whole grains. And dried beans are wonderful.
Yeah, I eat beans at least twice a week.
So that's all the time we have. So you stay
Fine.
tuned. We'll be talking again soon. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.